A quick note before we begin. This episode contains stories of childhood sexual assault and sexual harassment in the workplace. For those reasons, listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Farkas, and on today's episode, how Erin Snow turned a lifetime of not being heard into a business where she hears other women. Erin Snow is the proud owner of the Seacoast Listening Lounge in Hampton. She's not a therapist or a mental health professional, but with a 20-year background in law, where she spent one-on-one time with thousands of victims of domestic violence and abuse, she's learned a thing or two about how to listen empathetically and compassionately. At the lounge, Erin listens to women talk about anything. Think the promotion you want to tell your best friend about, but you can't because she just got dumped by her boyfriend. Or about the concerns you have regarding your next presentation, financial struggles, or why you can't find it within yourself to get back to the gym. Literally anything goes with Erin. The happy, the sad, the in-between, and she won't judge you for it. This business exists, as many businesses do, because it's something that Erin wishes had existed when she needed it most, like during her divorce, tough early years in corporate America, or the teenage years. We'll discuss those critical moments on today's podcast, an episode that's presented by Little Tree Education and Seacoast to Summit. In our conversation, we'll discuss the Listening Lounge and the years of pain, suffering, and heartbreak Erin endured before opening the lounge last year. It's another story you'll just have to hear to believe, and it begins with the singular event that changed the entire course of Erin's life.
I had a pretty, what I would describe as a perfect childhood. Went to the beach, picked strawberries, hung out with my friends, had a loving family. But when I was about 8 or 9, I was sexually abused by my friend's father while I was at a sleepover at her house. And that was just obviously a turning point, shaped the rest of my life, changed my life, which I resisted for a really long time saying that because I felt like that gave him some kind of control over me and my life, and I didn't want that. But then, thinking about it, if that hadn't happened to me and I didn't have experiences related to that after that, I wouldn't be where I am now. I'd be a totally different person. I will never say I'm grateful. Not grateful that it happened for sure, but grateful that I was able to take something so traumatic and turn it into something really beautiful.
What do you remember about that night, if anything at all?
So a lot of victims don't remember details. It's a brain response, but I do remember quite a few details, even decades later. So I remember that we were hanging out, having a sleepover. He has 3 daughters. We went to bed after playing games, watching TV probably. And I just remember waking up to extreme burning pain, like nothing that I had ever experienced at that point. I have since experienced it when I had childbirth without any meds. It was the same kind of sensation and feeling. That's how much it hurt. That was the burning pain. And was laying on my right side. I was in the middle of the front room. We were all in sleeping bags. And I knew instantly that I should not say anything, that I needed to pretend to be asleep. So I did until I couldn't stand it anymore. And then I just kind of flickered my eyes open and I saw him. I saw my friend's dad, and he stopped. And I remember he pulled up my underwear. I had days of the week underwear. Everyone did that. I had days of the week underwear, and he pulled them up and they were wrong. It was just not fitting right. I was like, it just felt awkward on my body. And then I remember we made eye contact and he held up his finger and he went like this. And that has been like burned in my brain in that message of don't talk, don't speak, don't say anything. And he left and then I went back to sleep. And then the next morning, woke up and he made us pancakes. And he handed me my plate of pancakes and we made eye contact. And that look of, I know that you know what I did. And I would see him around town. It was a small town and he would still be walking around. And every time I saw him, that same eye contact, that same nonverbal messaging of don't talk, don't say anything. I know you know, but don't say anything.
You're holding your finger to your lips for those who can't.
Yeah. Like the shh. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know if this happened to anyone else in the room that night?
I don't know. I do know that about 10 years ago, because I would kind of every now and then look up his name just to see if anything happened. Because I think I talked about it, but in a way that a kid talks about something like that. You don't know what it is. You're not sure. I mean, you know what it is, but it's like, how do you talk to other people about this? And it was late 80, early, like 89, 90, around that time frame. And it's like, we didn't have the tools then. We didn't know how to talk about these things. It was like, okay, let's just make it so this doesn't happen again. So don't have contact. But it wasn't the same thing. There wasn't reporting like there is now. And so I would periodically look up his name. And then I was attending a domestic violence conference about 10 years ago. And I was in the parking lot by myself in my car and did what I did every year after the conference. I would Google his name. And I got a hit that time. And he had been arrested for child pornography. And I was like, okay, now people will believe me. And that's awful. It should just be, I'm telling my story and I'm believed, but there has to be evidence and it has to have happened to somebody else. And if it's just a single person and there's no physical evidence beyond my testimony or a victim's testimony, which is evidence, but often isn't considered enough evidence, where's the physical evidence? I was like, okay, this felt validating to me because now I could say, see, I was telling the truth. See, I was telling the truth. See, this is a bad guy. And I didn't make a report. Still, people ask me that all the time. Did you make a report? Did you make a report? I made a report a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
People are like, why? Why now?
Yeah, why now?
I think I've been working with victims for almost 20 years at this point. And I was able to hold their stories. I was able to be present with them as they were experiencing unimaginable things. I never told my story. It wasn't appropriate. I felt in those situations, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about my story. But when I left my job last year to start Seacoast Listening Lounge, I told my story to all my coworkers at my going away party. I was like crying and they're like, what? Because I felt like it was time for me to start telling my story. So I'm getting more comfortable talking about it. And there have been many days since this happened that I've been thinking, should I say something? Do I say something? Do I make a report? Does it matter? And, we hear stories in the media. People are like 3 decades later, they're making reports. 2 decades later, I looked up Maine doesn't have a statute of limitations. So I knew that I always had the ability, unless the law changed, I had the ability to make a report. And so, but something always kind of stopped me like, I have kids now and do I really want to bring this up? And I know what it's going to be like because I've seen hundreds of victims have to go through similar situations where, they have to testify and there is no physical evidence. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? That doesn't matter to me. What matters is that he took my option away when he did what he did. He took my choice away. I didn't have a choice to say no. I have a choice now to say, yes, I want people to know about this. Yes, this is my story and this is how I want to tell it. And honestly, like, he's in his 70s probably. And I didn't want to wake up and know that he died and that choice was taken away from me again. Like, then it's a no. I can never say anything. What will it matter? So whether or not he's held accountable, and that's something I've struggled with, is accountability and the justice system. And for me, I'm able to have some closure in some way because I'm telling my story and it's okay. And I feel safe doing that.
Were you not believed as a kid when you talked about this?
I don't know. So I'm really good on the details of what happened, but I am not great on the details about what happened in terms of what it looked like when I was telling people. I remember telling like friends, but I don't remember what I told them. I may have just said, hey, this guy's really weird. And I may have said that to my parents, like, hey, this guy was like kind of weird and made me feel uncomfortable. And then the response is, oh, well, just don't be around him. There weren't the tools then. There weren't the questions that there are now. And I'm grateful that there are those tools now and people have received training. And, when a kiddo says something like that, it's let's explore that a little bit more. What does that mean? But that's what my training has taught me to do. And I think that's more people understand those kind of follow-up questions, which is what is leading to more reporting, which is great.
So 3+ decades now, you filed. Do you think people will believe you?
I don't know if I care if people believe me. Like, I think for so long, that's why I was like Googling and I said I had some validation, but I don't know if I care if people believe me. It's my story and I am in a place where I feel comfortable talking about it and telling it. And he knows what he did. And he's going to, whether you believe in justice or karma or whatever, like, he has to live with that. I have to live with it. So it's not about him anymore. It's not about whether or not he's going to be accountable. I feel like I can kind of let go of that. It's about, hey, I told my story. And it doesn't have to be a secret. This holding my finger up and saying this, that's a secret. Like, this is not a secret anymore. So I feel good about that.
Looking back on your childhood, teenage years, early adult years, are there any links, connections you can make to what happened and how you acted, showed up on a day-to-day basis? I mean, a lot of people, something like this happens, bury, and then it just all comes out at once, or it subtly or not so subtly affects how they show up.
Yeah. On the surface and to everybody, I was like the perfect kid, right? I mean, my parents may disagree. I was a difficult teenager. I felt very independent because I had to deal with things on my own for so long, and I had to figure that out and manage that. So, people telling me what I could or could not do, I was like, you don't need to tell me. I've got this. I don't need to hear from you. But I was really good in school. I was in the top 10 in my class at a private high school. I was in theater. I was in mock trial. I played field hockey. I was in the church choir. Like, I was so extended in activities and doing really, really well in school. And it was goal oriented. And I was going to go to school for musical theater. So on the surface, like, what is there to worry about this kid? Right. But I was very into boys because that's what I had known. My first sexual experience was with somebody who used my body, and that's how I held value. That's how I thought I held value for other people. So when boys found me attractive or wanted to date me, I was like, oh, well, okay, great. It's because of my body. They like the way that I look. And they told me that. So I was sexually active in high school, 16, 17 years old. And I wasn't ready for that. I didn't know how to say no. I started to show my discomfort, with the boys I was dating. And I remember very vividly having this conversation with one of the boys that I was dating. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. And he was like, you can't say that. You can't say that. And I was like, here we go again. Like, what do you mean I can't say that? And he said, that's what you're here for. And that was the messaging. Like, that has been my messaging for decades. So I didn't have an opportunity to say no when I was like 9 years old. I couldn't. I didn't know how. I was frozen. So in my teen years, I'm like, I still don't really know how to say no. I wasn't taught that. I was taught that this is what my body is for. And then I was like, no, I'm starting to have like this idea that this isn't right. This isn't what I'm here for. I have more to offer. And then I started to exert myself and say that and advocate for myself. And no, that still got shut down and that wasn't okay. So then it's like, well, what? Like, I can't win in either of these scenarios. It's the same outcome. So it's almost like, don't fight it. And same response in college. But again, no one's seeing these things because I was doing well. And I will say, though, that in college, I had an experience where consent is really tricky. It's not all screaming and saying no and shoving people away. There's a lot of ways for people to indicate that they're not into it. You know, somebody could initiate something like, you know what, I think we have to go. I think the movie's starting. Or, you know, somebody tries to make a move on you and you get up and you're like, no, let me just go check the refrigerator. I want to get a water. You know, like they try to disengage from the situation. But I don't think people are taught to kind of pick up on those cues. And so they're missed a lot. And so for somebody like me who had been sexually abused and had these experiences in my teen years, when I got to college and I, again, tried to make attempts, and it still wasn't enough to get the point across. Like, I feel like there needs to be more messaging about what does consent look like? And there are lots of ways to say no and to give the impression or to indicate that you're not into this. And so I thought I was doing that. And I guess I didn't again. And I was like, oh my God. So I started exhibiting obsessive compulsive symptoms. And I had when I was a kid, you know, I would like pick lint off of my rug as a kid after the situation happened and the incident happened. And it was just kind of like, oh, that's just Erin like doing like a weird thing. Again, no one really thought about it. But I started like washing my hands like crazy in college, like Bed Bath & Beyond, the hand sanitizer lotion. I could have bought stock in that and like they would have been so much money. But it was getting to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore. So I did start seeing somebody in college, a therapist, which was great. And he did like, but it was really like a trauma-based OCD. And so he helped me kind of manage that because everything that was triggering to me was around sexually transmitted diseases. So he helped me work through that. But still, like past college in my relationships, like still, it's very tricky to still have situations where it has not been what I wanted.
Wow. I can't imagine being 9 years old and, you know, when we talk about your sexuality or your virginity, like losing that's your choice.
Yeah.
And to have none of this be your choice as you're growing up, trying to make your way, as you're going through puberty, which brings all sorts of changes internally and externally. I can't imagine what going through that was like.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you are who you are today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you're in college.
I'm in college, yeah.
In Washington, D.C., which I'm sure is a wild place to attend college.
Yeah, I was there for 9/11.
Oh, God. What was that like?
Oh, it was awful. I was in my college dorm. I was getting ready for an education class. And I was watching the Today Show. And it was on, and you could see the plane going into the first tower. And I was like, oh my God, like what an idiot who would just do that.
Yeah.
And not thinking, I thought it was like, not that it makes a difference, but I thought it was like a little plane. That's what it looked like on TV. And I was like, oh my God, what an idiot. How stupid. And still no one knew. And I went to my education class, and then I remember the professor, someone interrupted the class and said, everybody needs to go to their dorms. Like we were on kind of like a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And then all you could hear were planes flying, and everyone was like the Capitol, the Pentagon, like everyone was thinking that there were going to be more attacks. And really had no idea what to do, except kind of like our cell phones weren't really connecting that well. It was really, really scary. It was really a scary time because we had no idea what was going on, and just you could hear all the planes.
Right. And there was a crash at the Pentagon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been crazy.
It was.
Okay, so in college, you did theater, you studied film analysis, you had grown up in Central Maine, an hour north of Portland, wanting to be in theater, ultimately decided to not pursue that route, and you ended up going down the legal route, right?
I was doing film analysis. It was getting to be graduation day. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do? My dad was a lawyer, and he's like, have you thought about being a paralegal? You did mock trial. You've got a brain for it. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe. And so I applied for legal jobs, and I got a job at a big international law firm in DC. And day after graduation, I started working there as a receptionist. And I did that job for a year. And that was very eye-opening. Again, like in the workplace, just men in high positions, like, I'll pay for law school if you want to be my secretary. Like that kind of thing. It was like, yucky.
Really?
Yes.
I talked about this on a recent episode with Jen Wilder, owner Lainey Lou. She talked about her 20 years in the manufacturing industry. She was often the only woman in these rooms, and some men said some pretty disgusting things to her throughout these years. And what I failed to ask Jen, and what I would love to ask you is, why does this happen? Why do men in high places feel like they can just say those things?
I think a lot of it is they're counting on the fact that women think that they asked for or it was their fault, or they gave some sort of impression, and they count on us feeling like, oh gosh, like maybe I did this thing. And so we're not going to say anything. And to take it one step further, if we do say something, nothing ever happens. So they're entitled, and they're like, well, I can just do this. And nothing really ever happens. So they just keep getting away with it. And it just emboldens them. It empowers them. And we just, as women, I just think we just take on the bad behavior and don't excuse it. We're like, no, this is not good. But then we blame ourselves, and they count on that.
Did you find yourself doing that?
Not every situation that I was in, but there were some situations where I probably felt like, hey, did I make it seem like I was into this when I really wasn't? And then, at that point, was it just like too late to say anything? And now I just, I feel bad. And yeah, probably at some point, not every situation, like what happened to me when I was 9, I for sure knew that there wasn't anything that I did. And I didn't take that as like, this is somehow my fault.
It's pretty wild to me how men in these positions of power offer you career advancement in exchange for some kind of favor.
Favor.
Yeah, some favor. Did you ever take them up on these offers?
No, I did not. I was moving, so I didn't really have the opportunity to. But that being said, I felt very much it was like, all right, hey, if you do this, and it's law school. Law school costs like so much money. And had I really, really wanted to go to law school, that would have been the time to go to law school. Had I really wanted to go to law school, like, would I have considered it? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's just honest. And, a lot of people will probably judge me for saying that, and that's okay. But until you're in that situation,
Right.
It's like, what are you going to do? Like, okay, what do you want to do? Like, I don't know, you want to have sex with me? Like, and then you're going to pay for my law school? okay.
Yeah. I had a friend send foot pictures
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago because she was in a somewhat similar situation, like needed money for something and did it.
Yeah, I had clients who, a lot of that's coercive control too, but there are these services where you can be arm candy and eye candy, and in exchange for what? And if for somebody who is like either trying to feed a family or trying to get ahead, the thing is, like, when those things happen, I feel like so often the women are looked at as the bad person, for lack of a better word. Like, what were you thinking? How about the person that asked the question in the first place?
Right.
Like, it always feels like you're the slut. You're the one who asked for that. Why'd you wear those clothes? Like, I hate those questions. Like, you wore the outfit. You got drunk. You did this. It's all very you. How about the person that did it? Like, why are we excusing that behavior because of something that you all society think that we as women did to ask for it, to invite it?
Coming up, how Erin's career gets worse before it gets better, and why she believes listening lounges could be the next big thing. That's in a moment. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Little Tree Education. It's a Montessori school for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, serving children from 6 weeks through 6 years. What is a Montessori school, you ask? It's a child-centered educational philosophy that promotes independence and self-directed learning. Instead of traditional grades, children are grouped by age and they learn at their own pace in a specially prepared environment. Little Tree opened its doors in 2013, and now they have 3 locations in Dover, Madbury, and Newmarket. They serve over 350 families on the Seacoast, employing over 80 teachers, several of whom have worked together since the day Little Tree opened. Here, you'll find a vibrant community of families and educators, and it's a place where lifelong friendships are created. Many families consider Little Tree an extension of their family. Plus, they even offer childcare while you, the parents, go off to work. And guess what? Enrollment for spring and fall 2026 is now open. And from now through December 31st, you can get 50% off, that's 50% off your application fee with the code Seacoast Stories at checkout. All one word. That's code Seacoast Stories at checkout. The link to their website is in the show notes. You know how I'm always talking about all of the cool businesses on the Seacoast? Well, here's another one I've discovered recently. It's called Seacoast to Summit. It's a boutique vacation rental management company. They manage 120 listings on sites like Airbnb and Vrbo, and they're focused on creating a clean, comfortable, and safe stay for guests while helping homeowners earn more and stress less. Founded in 2018 in Hampton, Seacoast to Summit's properties have stretched from Portsmouth to Plum Island, and now they're extending into New Hampshire's Lakes region. They serve travelers looking for high-quality short and midterm stays and homeowners who want to maximize their property's income without managing the day-to-day details. So if you'll spend some time away from the Seacoast this winter, for some reason, and you would like to make a little extra cash without having to put in the extra work, Seacoast to Summit is here to make your life so much easier. If that sounds too good to be true, it isn't. Just click the link in the show notes to head to their website so you can fill out a free property evaluation to learn just how much money you may be sitting on this winter. Thank you, Seacoast to Summit, and thank you, Little Tree Education, for supporting the show. Now back to my conversation with Erin Snow, which resumes with more troubling stories from her early days in corporate America.
Yes, so I was in DC for a year after I graduated because my first husband, we were going to get married and he was a year behind me. So DC, I lived in Virginia, and then we moved to Boston and just outside Boston. And I was there for 6 months. I worked for another law firm, big law firm. Also strange things said to me, not about that exactly, but another just kind of message of like, who do you think you are? Don't talk. And then I moved to Providence and was commuting to Boston from Providence every day. And that was too much. And then I got my paralegal certificate at Northeastern. And then I started working for the Rhode Island Attorney General.
Wait, what happened in Boston?
Like,
You can't just drop that.
drop it. Okay. So again, a really, really big law firm. And I remember somebody said to me, "You're not allowed to look the partner in the eye. Don't look the partner in the eye." And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why can't I look the partner? At this point, I'm now like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, people cannot keep saying this to me. I'm breaking the trend. This is not okay. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And they're like, no, don't do it. You can't do it in your position. And then I was like, all right, I've had enough. And I'm like, look, I'm leaving. They wanted me to stay. And they literally told me, I was working in legal hiring at the time. So they wanted me to be like the kid's sister for the summer associates. So the people that are in law school students who want to come and work for the law firm during the summer. So I was working on helping them hire those students. And it was me and another woman. And they literally told me that they hired her for her beauty, like, had done pageants and stuff. Like, she's the face. You just need to be the brains. I was like,
yikes.
Yes, I'm not making this shit up. I am not making it up. And so I was like, all right, I did my paralegal certificate on a fast track. I was like, I've got to get out of this corporate bullshit. Like, this is just not for me. And so I got a job at the Rhode Island Attorney General's office. I was doing insurance work for a little while. And that wasn't for me. Numbers are not my strength. And so that was in the civil division. I moved to the criminal division, and I was in the first ever elder abuse unit. And that's where I started to find my people. That's where I started working with victims, even white collar crimes I was working on. But I worked with sexual assault victims. I worked with child victims and investigating cases against people who were hurting one of the most vulnerable populations, people who are over the age of 60. I was like, this is what I need to be doing. I didn't look for it, but same thing when I moved to New Hampshire, that job. I didn't look for that job. It was a job, but I had no idea it's what I needed to be doing as part of like my own healing.
Why did this work really resonate with you?
I think it was the accountability. You know, I was working within the justice system now. Bad guys, I say guys, gender neutral.
No, it's probably guys.
I was seeing them being held accountable. And that felt amazing. And I felt like, okay, I'm a part of this. I am helping bad guys go to jail. But it was more than that. It was that victims felt like they had someone on their side. And I wasn't even at that point working. I was doing more investigative work. So I wasn't even working that closely with victims at the time. But it just felt important to me that I was doing something to kind of move the needle. And I love putting cases together. I was the person that can always look at the other side. They would come to me and they'd be like, okay, what do you think the defense is going to say? What do you like? I love those kind of puzzles and what could the other argument be? So I really, really enjoyed the work. I did. I love that job.
How emotionally taxing is it working with people who are experiencing domestic violence, elder abuse? And are you taking that stuff home with you? I would imagine it's hard not to. I don't even know if you would want to call it a gift. It's not like I'm detached, but I think it's because a lot of this has happened to me that I so desperately know what it feels like to not have anyone believe you, to not have someone on your side, to not listen to you, that I don't feel that heaviness. I don't feel that weight. I, of course, empathize, and I am so incredibly sad and sorry that they're having these experiences. But in terms of like a lot of people, the burnout rate in these jobs is so high, and secondary trauma, vicarious trauma, that there's such high levels of that happening in these jobs. But for me, like I could have kept doing that work indefinitely. That's not why I left, but I don't take it home in some ways because it goes through me. And I think it's just this idea that I'm helping in a way that I didn't get, that just keeps feeding me and I can just keep going.
because I just want to be that person for other people.
Were you also finding in the people that you were working with on the cases that you were working with that women who were the victims in these cases, that they too were not getting believed?
Yes, all the time. By the justice system, by the family court system. So I was working on family law cases, so divorce, parenting, and protective order cases. And domestic violence, people think that it's all black and blue marks and bruises and black eyes and broken bones. And it is that sometimes, but it's also this stuff that you can't see. It's this emotional abuse. It's the coercive control. It's the stalking behavior. And so in pretty much every court case, whether you're in family court or you're in a criminal case, like they want evidence. And they want physical evidence. They want pictures. They want, did you make a police report that time? Well, why didn't you make a police report? Did you go to the hospital? Why didn't you go to the hospital? And those repeated questions of why didn't you leave? It just minimizes what the experience was. And it's just like, again, blaming the victim. Why don't you have all of this stuff? And if you don't have all this stuff, then maybe it didn't really happen. And there's not always physical evidence. A lot of times there is no physical evidence. There's none in my situation right now, zero. But people don't understand, like, your voice is testimony, is evidence, and that should be accepted. And of course, we have a justice system where both sides should be heard. That's it. You need a fair trial, and that's the cornerstone of our justice system, right? Innocent until proven guilty. But what I saw a lot were cases where my clients were not believed, especially if there were mental health issues, which were the majority of the time caused by the domestic abuse, were not believed. And they either were not successful in getting what they needed and, to keep themselves safe or their children safe, because there wasn't the evidence that everybody thought they needed to see. And it's really sad. It's hurting. It's hurting families in New Hampshire.
You told me the last time we spoke that we assume domestic violence victims are all women. That's usually in the media, the cases that you see, that happens to be the case. But you did surprisingly tell me that it actually happens a good amount as well, where men are the victims.
Absolutely. I have male clients. I think what's really difficult for men too is that they're dealing with just the optics of it for them. Like, I'm going to show up in family court where our protective order cases are heard. I'm going to show up in family court and you've got a guy who's 6'2" and they're filing a domestic violence petition against their girlfriend who is 5'4" and weighs 100 pounds. And they're going to be like, what judge is going to believe that she's abusing me? I saw it. I saw them go, like, question, is this really, like, is this possible that she could have physically harmed you? Like, of course, like, stalking happens, domestic violence happens. And there's, I think, on both sides, but probably, I'm not a man, but I can imagine like this, well, if I go file this, then does this make me weak? Are people going to judge me because I'm not a man if I file this? And I feel so badly that that's, what the judgment would be, but I've seen it happen. I've seen judges mix up the two people, like one is the plaintiff and one is the defendant. And when the plaintiff or petitioner is the male, I've seen judges mix it up that they're the defendant simply because they're a male. And they just assume that there was a mistake and that the male is the defendant. And that's just like, can you imagine that the courage it takes for anyone to go file a domestic violence petition, to go put your story on paper, and then have to go to court, and you stand up in court and you've got to defend what you've written on that paper, and you're asking for help, and you're immediately right out of the gate, there's this assumption or bias that you can't possibly be the victim simply because you're a male. Like, they're not going to come back and do it again. And women face the same thing. they put their story on paper and a lot of people are unrepresented, so they don't know what to write down and it's not enough and it gets dismissed. And then they say, well, that was a horrible experience. I don't want to do that again. And so the next time they don't file. It's really, really important to get to people early and to make sure that they have the resources so they know what needs to be put on the paper and that they have people with them in court.
Right. Why did you leave this career last year?
I was practicing under Rule 35 and I was like, okay, look, I did this. I am a paralegal who is representing my own clients in court. And that is an amazing accomplishment. I've been thinking about that for years. And wouldn't this be amazing? I'm working on all these cases. Why are people going to court alone when I know what I'm doing? I can do this. So reaching that goal was huge. I'm so fortunate that I was able to do that. I was the first paralegal at New Hampshire Legal Assistance to direct a project, which was also huge. That was great, that I was able to do that. So they're really just, and I was doing legislative work, and I just felt like I kind of hit a ceiling. And I loved that ceiling. And I loved my clients and I loved my colleagues, but I was like, what else can I do? And what is the piece that's missing? What's still missing? Where can I do this work? And it was the listening piece. I heard for years my clients say, Erin, people are not listening to me. I'm telling my story. Nobody's hearing me. Feel like I'm screaming and everybody's still walking right by me. And I got that. Totally resonated with me. All right, yeah, I also have a story that no one's hearing, doesn't want to hear. I don't know if I told it, if they believe me. I get this. This makes sense. And then I went through my divorce and I didn't tell my friends or anyone really that I was getting a divorce or thinking about a divorce. I didn't want the judgment. I didn't want to deal with that, but it was very lonely. It was super lonely. I didn't have anyone that I could rely on. So I did that all by myself. I went through that all by myself. And so I'm remarried, and I was on a beach last summer and I had this epiphany after watching Sex and the City and going, I hate that. That's so annoying that there's not this group of women just sitting around at a coffee house every morning and no judgment. It doesn't happen. And so I said, all right, I think I want to do this. I want to start a business where I listen to women about anything. Doesn't have to be about divorce. It doesn't even have to be about really, really hard things. It can be really good things that they just don't have a space to share it or someone to share it with, but just a place to kind of unload. And my husband, thankfully, is an entrepreneur himself, but said, I don't know if that's a thing. And I said, well, I'm going to make it a thing. And he's been super supportive of that, which is great because I have no business experience whatsoever. I'm just building a dream. It's my dream. And just doing the best I can with it.
Lots to unpack there. Let's start toward the beginning.
Okay.
You mentioned you got divorced.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Why?
Okay. Well, I'm all about being real, so I'm going to be real. So I got married when I was really young. How old was I? I got 23. He was almost 22. So really, really young. Totally no idea what we were doing. But I looked to my parents' marriage. They got married a week after college. They graduated college. And I just thought my sister was engaged in college. I was like, well, that's what we do.
Wow.
That's just what you do. And so I thought that was the logical next step, not thinking at all hey, you don't have to move that fast. You can take your time. That doesn't have to be the next step. But it was, and that's what I thought I wanted. And I wanted kids on the earlier side so that when I was older, I could, and, empty nester, I would have the ability to still be able to do that. So getting married really, really young, and there being consequences of that, still trying to figure things out. And there was infidelity that went on for years that I found out about. And most people would probably be like, oh, well, that was it. I was kind of at that point looking for something that people would understand. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. We're not on the same page. We're not enjoying each other anymore. We've drifted apart. Raising two little kids. He was gone most of the time traveling, hence the infidelity. But it was just lonely and sad. And I was like, I need something that people will understand, because people just won't understand if I say I don't feel like being married anymore. So when it happened, when I found out about it, I was like, okay, people will get this. I just have to say he cheated on me and they'll get it. And they'll be like, you should leave him. He's such an asshole. And I didn't do it. We bought another house. We moved, we bought another house. And
after you found out about it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was just like, it'll be fine. We'll just keep it together. It'll be okay. I just thought the next thing would make it okay. And it didn't. But that really wasn't that so much as what was said to me. Again, it's the messaging. And I'm thinking about this, even as we're talking, all these messages that have come to me in my life. And this message, I just remember we were in our kitchen and he said to me, it's like, Erin, you will never be the priority. Work will always be my priority. You never will be. And that I could never let go of. And it still, after that, took me several years. And I proposed all sorts of different arrangements because he didn't want to get divorced. That was a failure to him. He didn't want to. He loved me and all of that. I was like, look, it's just not good. This isn't good. And we should both be happy. We want our kids to be happy. But he didn't like any of those arrangements. And so I didn't tell anyone. And then I told people when it was already happening. And, I lost a lot of friends for that. It's not their fault. They didn't know. I didn't want them to know, because I felt like if they knew, then there would be the judgment. And my friends were the parents of my kids' friends. So I thought, all right, well, if anything gets reflected back on me, that's going to get reflected on my kids. And so I didn't tell them. And I lost friends and they thought a lot of things about me. I'm sure they thought that I was a slut and this was all my fault. And he's such a nice guy. So it had to have been me. I had to have been the problem. And I took that. I'm not taking it anymore, clearly.
Damn right.
But yeah, I didn't say anything. And on top of all of that, at the same time, so it was going into COVID, divorce happening. And then my dad also was dying of Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's. So I was like, I can't tell my family. So I was looking for a place where I could unload. That wasn't therapy.
Yeah.
I didn't feel I had done therapy. That's not what I was looking for. I was literally looking for a space where I could just unload, vent, and be like, okay, great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care of all that for me. And that would be it. I couldn't find anything. And I was like, I know that women need a place to be listened to. I know for my clients, I know for myself, they need this. I needed this. I could have been my client. I was my client and it wasn't available. So I said, I'm going to make it. And I did.
When your ex-husband told you that you were not the priority in his life, how did that make you feel?
I was pissed off. I was like, what the fuck are you, what do you mean? Isn't that the whole point, is for your family to be the priority? And he's like, that's where he got his satisfaction. That's where he felt like he was the hero. And maybe he didn't feel like the hero at home. That it got to this point where, he wasn't making me happy. We weren't happy. And so being at work, he could be the hero climbing the corporate ladder. And so that's where he got his satisfaction, and that's where he felt validated. And so was going to be where he put his focus, all of his focus.
How did you find out about the infidelity?
So I had a friend who found out that her husband was cheating on her. And she mentioned something about a cell phone. And I was like, okay, that's kind of like hers. What she was going through was kind of ringing a bell for me. So I went home and I was like, can I look at your phone? And he immediately got defensive and like escalated and nervous about it. Why do you need to look at my phone? Like, you don't trust me. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. Like, okay, like otherwise you'd be like, here, I don't care. Look at my phone. Right. And so I was like, and then it turned into, well, it was 3 people. At first, I just found out it was one person. And then I was like, is there anything else you want to tell me? I just kept pulling and pulling and pulling. And then I found out it was 3 people. And I was like, over like 3 or 4 years. One of them, we almost moved to Chicago for. I was like, great. I want to go. Well, because I didn't know at the time. I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah. I could have been in Chicago. Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, I love Chicago, and this could be a new business opportunity for you, a new job or whatever. Great. I was going to go to school in Chicago at one point. I was like, I love that city. Let's go. Let's do it. And I had no idea it was there was a thing going on, probably to be closer to her. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You said you got married so young and you have children together and have purchased multiple homes and moved together. And then just to have someone be so unrecognizable by the end of it. What is that like?
Yeah, more so now, like complete strangers. It's so weird. Our divorce was handled very amicably. I did the divorce because was my work. And so we agreed on everything. We filed on a Friday and we were divorced on Monday. Like that can happen.
Because you know the legal system.
Well, that can happen in New Hampshire. Like people think we don't have those requirements that, you have to be separated for a year. Some states have those kind of requirements. We don't have that in New Hampshire. So we handled everything. But it was after that period where like new people come into your life, new partners, and then suddenly you're not on the same parenting page that you were. And so then it's like, I have no idea who you are. Like, what is happening? Things that we used to do pretty well, and now we're not doing so well anymore. And it's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And to spend your life with somebody for pretty much half of your life, and then to be like, I don't recognize you, is bizarre. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think if I were in your shoes that after that had gone down, I would have sworn off the opposite sex and would have been like, I'm not going near them ever again. But the divorce goes through and you happen to meet your now husband pretty soon.
Yes.
After.
Yes.
Wow. What gave you the courage, the confidence to pursue something else serious with someone again after that?
We
debacle?
were both seeing people, like we were like separated for a while, like living together but separately. So we were seeing people and like exploring dating and things like that. But I'm a hopeless romantic. My parents were almost married 50 years until my dad died. So it's like, damn those stupid rom-com movies, and those movies that I grew up watching. But I'm a hopeless romantic. I believe in love. And when it works with a partner, it can be really beautiful. And so online dating, which was not really a thing when I first dating. Oh my God.
Bumble?
I did Bumble, and I also did eHarmony. I met my husband on eHarmony, but we were both on Bumble. It's just so... Honestly, it's like a full-time job. It could be. Like, I don't mean to like say that like I have an ego or anything like that. I just mean like we get
it. A lot of men were liking you.
Yeah. Lots of fish pictures. I don't understand that at all. That's so weird.
That's something that men do. I don't know why. Despite women saying we hate the fish picture.
I don't get it. It was really weird. So I just felt bad because I know that there were people like would look at it and we'd be like, I'm not talking to this person, and wouldn't give this person the time of day. Yeah. And I just felt really bad. I didn't think that was fair. I'm sure they were lovely people. So I just was like responding to everything.
So you find your right person on eHarmony.
I almost stood him up too.
Yeah. Did you?
I did. I almost didn't go.
Well, you almost stood us up at our first Seacoast Stories dinner club.
That's true.
I'm noticing a trend, Erin.
Yeah. I did because I had just dated this guy and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is just awful. I want to take a break. I don't want to do this anymore. But we agreed to meet at a beach, North Beach. And I was like, really? First date, we're meeting at a beach. This is like asking a lot. I'm in my bathing suit. He's going to be in his bathing suit. But he was like, look, it's a huge beach. If we don't like each other, you just move your chair. And I was like, that's what he said.
I love that.
And so I said, all right, I'll show up. And then that date, we did like 3 dates in one day, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it just talked and hung out.
That's my go-to. I often do like the 7-hour date.
Yeah. I mean, you learn a lot about people then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We joke because he's like on our third date, which was our first date. He's like, well, you kissed me. And I was like, I did not kiss you. He's like, oh yeah, you did. I was like, I leaned in for a hug. You kissed me. He's like, nope, that is not how that happened. So we still argue about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So that 3 date in one date turns into a marriage eventually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then again, you are sitting on a beach. You tell your husband,
yeah,
I have this business idea.
Yeah.
I want to pursue it. He's an entrepreneur. He says, yes, Erin.
Yes.
You should do this.
Yes.
What was the next step to making Seacoast Listening Lounge officially a thing?
I found a space. Not this space, my first space. I found a space and rented it and put together a little website. And I went to the Live Freely market.
Live Freely Fest.
Yes. Yes, the fest.
Shout out Alyssa.
Yes. And that was kind of like my soft opening. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'll just put up some flyers. I bought these. Everybody wants swag, right? So I thought, all right, I'm going to be different. And so I bought like a bunch of wireless earbuds and put a little Seacoast Listening Lounge sticker on them. I'm like, that's cute. And people thought I was a hearing aid business.
Oh my God.
And so that was kind of funny, but it was a great time. And I consider that like my opening in August.
Okay. And so the original vision for this was what?
Very simple. I was going to listen to women. That's what it was. It's not hard. That's it.
Okay. So that sounds ridiculous. When I told a friend before I had spoken to you and before I really understood what Seacoast Listening Lounge, I was like, I'm going to talk to this woman, Erin. She owns the Listening Lounge. She listens to women. And she looks at me and she's like, what?
Yeah.
And then she furthermore said, what does it say about us as a society that we are at a place where you need to hire someone who is not a therapist? That's been around forever. That makes sense. Need to hire someone to listen to you. How ridiculous is that?
It's not ridiculous at all. You have a lot of friends, right? Some closer than others. Think of a time where this thing is going on with you and you're like, I don't want to tell anyone about this thing. Can you think of one thing? You don't have to tell me what it is, but think of something where you're like, I don't know if I want to talk about this. Okay. So here is a place where you can talk to somebody who has no skin in the game. I'm completely neutral. I'm not going to try to fix you because that happens a lot when we talk to our friends. They try to fix you. They try to come up with a solution. You're like, I just really wanted to tell you what was going on with you. Or you're the dumper friend and you're just like constantly talking about the same thing, ruminating about the same thing. And suddenly that friend doesn't want to hang out with you anymore. And they're like, okay, I've heard that enough. Like, shit or get off the pot. Do it or don't. I don't care at this point. Just do something because you're driving me crazy. So, and then there are things that were just like, for me, I didn't want to tell people about my divorce. I didn't want to say my husband's being an asshole. Like, I just don't want to be married anymore. Because they'd be like, no, he's such a nice guy. I didn't want to deal with that. But things that people come in here and talk about are people who've been scammed. Like, that can be super shameful and embarrassing, and you don't want to talk to people about it. Or people who are having fertility struggles, people who are dealing with and caring for aging parents. And they're like, I just need a break. I'm so sick of dealing with this, but I'm the only one who can do this. And so here I am. And it can be really happy things too. Like maybe I'm pregnant and you don't have anyone to talk to about it. Or maybe your friend isn't able to get pregnant and you don't want to say, hey, guess what? Here's my exciting news. People have lost jobs and they're like, I don't know how to tell my partner that I just lost my job. What do I do? Like those are things that you can come in. You know, I have clients who come in one time. I have clients who come in multiple times. I have clients that I saw 6 months ago and then they're like, hey, I really need this again. I'm coming in. Like they just need to say it out loud sometimes and hear themselves say it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, okay. Like one, I have relief, but two, like maybe I know what next step to take. I didn't tell you what next step to take. I didn't direct you. I didn't try to fix you. You figured that out on your own because you talked about it and you had the space to be able to do that.
And what makes you qualified to run a listening lounge?
Yes. So good question. It's so also very clear I'm not a therapist, which requires a lot of
and
school.
Everything is confidential.
And everything is confidential. The confidential piece comes from my legal experience. I understand that. I understand what the barriers are, but I'm trained in empathetic listening through my legal work and experience and training. I'm trained in trauma-informed advocacy. So it's my professional experience, but also my lived experience. Everyone should work on being a good listener. That's what we should all strive to be. Do I think everyone should just open up a listening lounge? And that would be
trademarked.
Yeah. No, there does need to be some level of training, but there are things that certainly I am not trained or equipped to do. I'm not a therapist. I'm very clear about that. That's why I work and partner with therapists, because if somebody comes in here and they're like, I really want this service. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not qualified to handle this. I will say, look, I'm not qualified to handle this. And I'm going to refer you. I have a list of therapists that I can absolutely refer you to.
And what exactly does a session with you look like?
So get comfortable like this. I always start with a brief check-in with people and just, how's your day? What's going on? I always ask them why don't you give me a word to describe where you're at right now coming in here today? And a lot of times it's like frazzled, frustrated, tired. And then I ask them, how do you want me to listen to you today? And again, people thrown by that question. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Do you want me to engage in empathetic listening with you, make eye contact, do the and indicate, let you know that I'm listening to you and I'm here for you and fully present? Or do you want me to have more of a conversation with you? Do you want me to ask questions? Do you want my feedback? I will not give my feedback unless somebody explicitly asks me for it. And I just love lately, I've had clients who are just so directive. They're like, okay, for 15 minutes, I don't want you to say anything. I want you to be here. I want you to listen to me. I want you to set a timer. And I'm going to just go for 15 minutes. And then at the end of 15 minutes, I'm going to open it up and have a conversation. And I'm like, I love that. Like, how do we don't do that in our relationships. We're not like, babe, for 15 minutes, I want you to do this. And then at the end of that, I want you to do that. That's not going to work. Like, I mean, that would be lovely if it did. But a lot of times you're going to be like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. And then you get in the back and forth before the 15 minutes is even up. So I just love that. And at the end, I will ask them, okay, what word would you describe where you are now? And overwhelmingly, the word is relieved, like relieved and hopeful.
Why do you think people often feel relieved by the end?
I think because they've been carrying around so much shit for so long. And they're like, I finally got to put it down. So many people I'm talking with are caring oftentimes for other people. They're either a caretaker for their parent or their moms or their teachers or, anyone who's in a field of helping other people as well. But then there are also all these other things to everyone else that nobody is listening to them. Nobody's taking care of them. So I think in here for a half hour or an hour, they're like, I felt like it could be about me. And there was nothing else on the agenda. I didn't have to worry about, when you're talking with people, you're oftentimes like you and I talking for right now, I could be thinking, well, what's Troy thinking about this right now? Is Troy okay? Is Troy tired? Like, what's going on with Troy? How did he take what I just said? That is off the table in these sessions. They don't have to worry about that. Like, they don't know me. I don't know them. And who cares? Like, they don't have to worry about taking care of me and how I'm going to receive the information. So that frees them up to just say whatever they want. And I've had people even say, like, I don't say this to my therapist. Like, everyone has a mask. Like, this is how I talk to my kid's teacher. This is how I talk to my mother. This is how I talk to my husband. This is how I show up for my friends. This is how I talk to my doctor. A lot of times I need everyone to see me completely put together in some way, shape, or form. And I don't have to do that in here. Like, you show up real and raw. If you're a hot, sweaty mess, great. Whatever it is, if you're crying, that's fine. And I've had people say they've stopped themselves. They start talking and then they're like on the verge of saying something and they go, I can't say that. I'm like, why not? They're like, I don't know. What if you think? I'm like, I'm not going to think anything. go for it. And they're like, oh my God, I've never said that. I just want to say this. I'm like, great. I love that.
You told me that you think that just beyond your office here in Hampton, that this could be a big business. Yeah. Multiple listening lounges, that every city should have listening lounges, that this could really be a big thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Why do you think that?
Because I think people are starving for human connection. I think people are starving for authentic human connection where they don't have to present themselves in a particular way. We're in a loneliness epidemic right now. Coming out of COVID, everything's on video, people just want connections. You're doing it with your Seacoast dinner series and the events that you're hosting. People are looking for that. And people are buying into all sorts of wellness strategies. It started probably with the physical and the gyms, and we've seen that evolve over time, and yoga and Pilates and all these different ways to feel well and be well. And we've always had therapy, which is great. But again, that's more of a, somebody may be looking for a mental health diagnosis, somebody who needs like that longer term therapeutic journey. But where do we have kind of these places where we can just kind of drop in, say what we need to say, get it off our chest, feel good about it, and go and be on our way. Similar to what we do when we go to a gym. Like we pass a gym, we're like, oh my God. Or we're traveling and we're in a hotel and we're like, I feel like ass because I just ate all this fried food. I'm going to go upstairs, run on the treadmill, lift some weights. I'm going to feel good about that. It's the same kind of concept. Like you just do it, you feel good about it, and you go. And I do think that the gyms are everywhere, every corner for a reason. It makes people feel good. It makes people feel better. I think moving into this space of the emotional side of it, combining those things and offering that as an option is what's needed and missing right now.
But people didn't understand your concept at Live Freely Fest at first. So how difficult was it, especially in the beginning months, explaining just what this is and why it's necessary? Yeah,
it was hard. And I seriously underestimated. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to just say I'm open and I'm going to have all these people because, therapists have wait lists that are ridiculously long. And this is a good interim stage while you're waiting to get in to see a therapist, or people who maybe don't need therapy anymore, but still want somebody to talk to. This is great. We're in a loneliness epidemic. This makes total sense. And so I thought I just had to say that and, maybe try social media, which I didn't have before. And it would just be so easy. But no, I need to be in front of people and explaining to people what this is because, people can easily probably write it off and go, well, can't you just talk to your friend?
Right.
Can't you just talk to a friend?
That's what my dad always says when I've seen a therapist in the past. He's like, oh yeah, back in our day, we had therapists that were called our buddies at the bar.
Yeah, right, exactly. But no, think of those times where you're like, I said I was okay when I wasn't. I didn't want to bother my friend. I didn't want to bother my family. I cannot be the only woman out there that was going through these things and was like, I have no one to talk to. I cannot be the only woman. And I know I'm not because I've talked to lots of women since opening who have come here and said, thank you for opening this service. I had no idea what this was. I thought I'd give it a try. I had no idea what to expect, but I totally get this now. And maybe you won't get it until you have a one-to-one with me or a free consult, or you come in and try a session. But I hope that you'll be like, okay, there are other options because it's not a one size fits all, only do this and everything will be fine. But it's an option. And, there are lots of situations where we keep things in because we don't want to burden people. We're embarrassed. We're ashamed, all of the reasons. And we don't want the judgment. We don't want the fixes. And so this is a space where you don't have to have any of that and use it as often as you like.
So you opened your doors late 2024.
Yeah.
How's the business been?
Like I said, it was like pounding the pavement for a while, seriously underestimating, getting out, networking, doing all of that, which was new for me. Social media, new for me.
I've been seeing those dances on there.
Oh my God, so bad. I didn't have social media until last year, zero. I had zero friends because with my job, it wasn't safe for me to have it. Right. So now I have it. It's growing. I'm learning. But yeah, I would say I started to really see promise this summer. There were times, and I know I'm not the only business owner where I'm like, this isn't happening. It's not going to work. Why did I do this? This was my dream and it was a stupid one and I'm going to just close. And every time I get those feelings, something keeps telling me, go. I have that client or somebody calls me or something. Or again, my mom and I having that moment and, someone saying to me last week, a new client saying, I'm going to give you as a Christmas gift this year. This is, people don't need socks. They don't need more of the crap that just goes nowhere on a shelf or something or donated. I'm going to give you as a gift because everybody needs to be listened to. And I'm like, okay, those kinds of things just keep me going. And I'm like, there is something here. This is special. And I want people to have access to it. And the access piece is important to me because I did work for legal aid. I work for low-income people. So that's why I do walk-in Wednesdays because I know not everybody can afford this and listening should not be a luxury. It really is truly a basic need to have somebody listen to you. So that's why I do walk-in Wednesdays. So 9 to 12, no appointments, drop-in Wednesdays, mini event sessions, 20 minutes. Pay whatever you want. It could be $0. It can be whatever. It could be coffee. I don't drink coffee, but hot chocolate. So that's important for me to do for the community. Because I don't want people to not have it as an option.
Let's close out today's podcast where we started it. You told the story of what happened when you were 9. If you could tell that man, knowing everything that you know now about how your life has played out, where you've been, the lives you've changed, the people you've impacted, what you're doing now, what message would you want to send to him?
Okay, the first thing that came in my mind was fuck you, and I will not keep your secret. But I would say that you were part of my story, but you are not my story, and you are not my ending. And part of my story, but not my ending. And you do not define me. And I make my own choices. And that's probably what I'd say.
Well, we end every podcast with the same final question. And it is brought to you by David Higgins, a local financial advisor. As he grows his local business, he is here to support ours. To get in touch with David to increase your financial investment game, just please visit the email in the show notes. You can send him one there. Erin, if you were to leave this earth tomorrow, what would you want people to remember about you?
That I listened to you.
Pretty similar to the legacy I would like to leave. So thank you, Erin, for all you do, for sharing your story, for being so brave. I think a lot of women, especially who listen to this, will probably find some commonalities in your story. And I know they'll be appreciative, and I'm appreciative of you. So thank you for everything you do for the Seacoast, for appearing on the show. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Troy.
That's Erin Snow, the founder of the Seacoast Listening Lounge at 380 Lafayette Road in Hampton. To learn more, you can book a free consultation with Erin by visiting seacoastlisteninglounge.com. Thank you for listening, and a reminder that we've got 2 events coming up. Seacoast Stories Dinner Club is happening in Hampton on Wednesday the 12th. It's our largest group yet, with 80 people signed up already, and we would love for you to join the party. Plus, on December 5th, Seacoast Stories Live is headed to 3S Art Space in Portsmouth for its biggest show of the year. To book your tickets to these events, just visit the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for all of your support. It truly means the world to me. I'll be back next week with another important episode, but until then, have a great week. Live free or die.